This video is sponsored by and available on ProtoPlay, an alternative video hosting platform focusing on creative freedom for both content creators and viewers alike. Check it out with the link in the description below, or feel free to grab the app found on Apple and Android devices. How are we doing today, everybody, and welcome back to our latest episode of Kombat Tips. As you can see, today we're going to be focusing on a rebooted version of Cetrion's Brutality tutorial. Naturally, if there's anything in particular you have come here to learn today, feel free to hop on down below to either the description, the timeline, or the comments where you can find timestamps that will let you skip to anything I feature in today's episode. Should any of the controls I mentioned today not make sense to your respective controller, feel free to use this conversion guide right here, and that will allow you to take anything I say in today's tutorial and convert it onto any platform currently hosting Mortal Kombat 11. Of course, we got to get things started over here on the cosmetics screen, and that is of course to show you folk that as of this video's release date, there are currently 25 out of 25 finishers for Cetrion, which means today's tutorial is going to be featuring 11 different brutalities. But again, if there's any particular brutality you folk have come here to learn, feel free to hop on down below, and the timestamps should get you where you gotta go. Let's get started. Now, I have to imagine most of you, especially if you follow this channel, already know how to do the Klassic. But just in case, let's go over it anyways. Now, in order to do this brutality, you want to make sure that you do not block an attack during the final round. And to clarify, the final round can be either rounds 2 or 3, just whichever round you as a player are going to be victorious on. Alright, so just keep that in mind. Next up, you want to make sure to finish your opponent with an uppercut, and while that is happening, hold either Y or triangle on your respective controller. So our uppercut, folks, of course, that's going to be down Y or down triangle, and it should look just like that. So something I always like to clarify with the Klassic here, folks, is as you can see, we are on round 2. This is going to be my victorious round, and boom. I've just hit the block button, but that's okay because I've not actually taken damage while blocking. Should you be reflexive like myself and boom, just hit this button, it's okay as long as you let go and make sure to not take damage. So let's end this, folks. Remember, you do not want to block any damage on your final and victorious round. And from there, finish your opponent with an uppercut while holding either Y or triangle respectfully. And there we go, folks. The Klassic. So next up we have the Falling Sky Brutality. Now this one will require that you have the Earthquake ability in your arsenal. So of course, have that good to go, and we'll move on. Now as for our criteria, there's two main things we want to focus on here. First off, you have to perform a Mercy. If you don't know how to do that, I will of course display that in just a moment, but once that is out of the way, you want to make sure that your final hit comes from the second hit of Earthquake. And I assure you, this is not nearly as complicated as it sounds. And again, I'll give you an example right now. Now the Earthquake is going to be down down A or down down X, and as you can see, boom, boom. Now because this brutality asks you to finish the opponent with the second hit of Earthquake, it almost sounds like they're suggesting the first hit has to miss them. This is not the case. If you perform Earthquake as normal, boom, boom, as long as that second hit ends up finishing the opponent, this will still work. Alright folks, so our Mercy. If you don't know how to perform one, let's go over that right now. There's 3 steps I like to cover when going over a Mercy, and the first step, very simple, get your opponent onto the finish him screen. Alright? Now the second step, after your opponent is on the finish him screen, you're going to want to get to about medium distance. If you ask me right now, this is about medium distance, but if you need a quick way to gauge it when you're right up against your opponent, do 2 back dashes, 1, 2, and that will put you also at medium distance. So we've got our opponent on the finish him screen, we're at medium distance. Our third step here is we're going to want to hold the flip stance button, that's usually L2 or left trigger, and as you can see, doing that will flip our character. We're going to want to hold that, push down 3 times quickly, 1, 2, 3, and as soon as you have pushed down for the 3rd time, let go of that flip stance button. So let me give you that live demonstration right now, folks. Remember, get your opponent onto the finishing screen, get to medium distance, There's our medium distance. Holding that flip stance, 1, 2, 3, and then you let go as soon as that third button is pushed down. So with our Mercy out of the way, folks, we can now finish the opponent with that Earthquake. Remember, they want the second hit of the Earthquake to be the last hit to finish the opponent. It's okay if the first hit also strikes them, as you'll see right now, but just make sure your opponent dies from the second hit of that Earthquake. Like so.
Rest.
Love it. Next up, we have the pinned Brutality. Now this one's gonna require that you finish your opponent with a back throw, and while that's happening, you're gonna wanna mash either X and Y or square and triangle, respectively. So a back throw is so simple. You just gotta tap L1 or left button without any other direction, and as you can see, there, oof, is our back throw. Arcade style players, you can use square and X at the same time, or X and A at the same time, and as you can see, boom, you will still get your back throw. Now, plenty of you will be quick enough with just your thumb alone, but for those of you who may struggle to hit X and Y or square and triangle rapidly enough, a tip I always offer is to take my controller and use the pointer and middle fingers, boom, place them on my respective buttons, and pop. Just mash them like that with 2 fingers at once. Great way if you find you can't get your thumb moving quickly enough between them to make sure these brutalities work. So let's put this one to an end, folks. Remember to finish your opponent with a back throw and then mash either X and Y or square and triangle while it's happening. Let's go for it, folks. Boom. Ooh. Ooh-wee.
All life ends.
Love the way they slow it down for just a second so you can see all the mayhem and all the violence being committed. Oof. It's just those little cherries on top of detail that I always appreciate about certain brutalities like this. Next, we have the splitting apart brutality. Now for this one, you're going to want to perform at least 3 throws at any point throughout the match, and then finish your opponent with a towards throw. Because of this, optionally, if you choose, you can also make that third throw that you require your final throw as well. For a towards throw, folks, simply move towards the opponent and tap L1 or left button, and as you can see, you'll give them some real spinal issues there. And of course, same for arcade style players. Just move towards the opponent and push square and X at the same time, or X and A, and again, still get your towards throw. Time to finish this opponent, folks. Remember, you need to perform at least 3 throws throughout the match. I've only performed 2 so far, demonstrating how you guys can do it. And now to show you that you can indeed finish the opponent with that third throw, we're going to move forwards and finish our opponent with that towards throw. Here's number 3. So remember, folks, when it comes to brutalities that ask you to perform an ability a certain amount of time, you can very often make that final tally also the final hit. Next, we have the crushed brutality. Now this will require that you have the shattering boulder ability in your arsenal, so as usual, have that good to go. Now the criteria asks that you use the shattering boulder at least 3 times during the match. Remember, the key word here is use, so it does not actually have to hit. The opponent can block it, or the ability can be away from the opponent altogether. As long as you have cast it at least 3 times, that will work towards your criteria. Next up, you simply want to finish your opponent with an amplified shattering boulder. So by itself, the shattering boulder is going to be down back X or down back square, and as you can see, pop. Now luckily, this is an ability in which you can manipulate the direction on should you push forward or backwards after the initial input. So we're going to go ahead and use Shattering Boulder by itself here. And as you can see, it's about medium distance. Now we're going to push backwards after the initial input. And it's closer, and now we will push forwards after the initial input. And boom, it's further enough in this case to actually hit the opponent. So just keep that in mind. You can manipulate the battlefield just by manipulating that ability. Now let's not forget that we need to finish the opponent with the enhanced shattering boulder. So tap either R1 or right button just as that initial boulder is colliding with the enemy, and as you can see, boom, and boom, we get a nice follow-up explosion. Even though they've probably been gotten out of the way just through me teaching you guys this brutality, we'll go ahead and clarify with 1, 2, and 3 shattering boulders as part of our criteria. And note, again, they don't even have to hit the opponent in this case. Time to end this one, folks. Remember, you want to perform at least 3 shattering boulders at any point throughout the match, and then finish your opponent with an amplified shattering boulder. Let's go for it.
All life ends.
I really like this one just because it's so combustive, I guess, the way that they just erupt in every direction around the stage. I really like that effect. Next up, we have the Smoked Flesh Brutality. Now this one's going to ask that you finish your opponent with an amplified Hell's Wrath from some distance away while holding down. If you ask me, some distance away is usually always medium distance. So a basic Hell's Wrath is going to be down forward X or down forward square, and as you can see, there it is. Remember, however, to tap R1 or right button to enhance this ability, and you should get, oof, that right there, a secondary beam. Again, folks, if you ask me, some distance away is a medium distance away, or 2 backdashes away from the opponent should you be right up against them. There's 1, there's 2, and there you have it, folks. A quick and easy way to gauge some distance away. So let's end this, folks. Remember, be some distance away. As you can see, we're good to go. And then finish the opponent with that amplified Hell's Wrath while holding down. Let's go for it. 1 and 2. Oof. So this one, I like how it kind of like just chars right up the middle. I almost thought it was going to split them in half. Not that I would be opposed to it, but I like how it really just like clean cooks everything down the middle, down to the bone. Very cool detail. Next up is the Cannonball Brutality, and it's very straightforward. You just want to make sure that your final hit comes from a Boulder Bash. So the Boulder Bash, folks, back forward Y or back forward triangle, and as you can see, oop, clearly our opponent needs to be up in the air, so let's go ahead and show you what that should look like. And pop, folks. There's our Boulder Bash. Alright, folks, let's squash this bug real good. Simply enough, just finish your opponent with that Boulder Bash. And as you can see, beautiful. It's so weird the way this one works, though, how it kind of only just like removes the torso and hip area. I don't know what the logic is behind that, but I do love just the crazy detail that goes into them. It's so strange and enamoring. Next up, we have Pulled Apart. Now this one will require that you finish the opponent with the tendril pull from some distance away, or as I've been calling it, medium distance, while holding either B or circle, respectively. So our tendril pull is going to be down back B or down back circle, and as you can see, folks, there it is. So remember, folks, we want to finish the opponent with that tendril pull from about medium distance. Right there should do it, and hold either B or circle while you're doing it. Let's go for it, folks. Next up, we have the Death-Nado. Now this will require that you have the Deadly Winds ability in your arsenal, so of course, make sure that's good to go, and we can proceed. As for the criteria, very similar to some of the other ones we've demonstrated today. Finish your opponent with the Deadly Winds ability from some distance away, and hold either B or circle on your respective controller. Now to use the Deadly Winds is going to be back forward B or back forward circle, and as you can see, whoosh. So remember, folks, you're going to want to be some distance away or medium distance, as I say, for this finisher. There we go. And then finish your opponent with the Deadly Winds while holding either B or circle. Let's go for it. Very Cabal theme to this one, if you ask me. I will say, to me, there's something so eerie and creepy about how it just kind of, you know, fades to silence here, but that torso, that corpse is just still spinning and spinning. I don't know, it's something very eerie about it. I don't know how to explain it. Next, we have the Shattered Brutality. Now this one will require that you have the Geyser ability in your arsenal, so as usual, have that good to go. Requirements here, very straightforward. Finish your opponent with that Geyser, and while that's happening, hold down. So the Geyser is going to be back forward B or back forward circle, and as you can see, very popular move if you've ever played against Cetrion online. Yet another move in which we can manipulate the direction of should you push forwards or backwards after the initial input. Let's go ahead and use it here. about medium distance, and we will push backwards here now after the initial input. Good and close to me, and now forwards after the initial input. Far off, and just far enough to again hit and apparently crush our opponent. So remember folks, finish your opponent with that geyser ability. It does not matter how far away the opponent is, and while they're caught up in that animation, make sure you hold down. Let's go for it. Holding down. Ooh. Very well executed there. I love how they, finally took advantage of that icy freezy ability. I think a lot of people will appreciate this Brutality online. I see this move being used a lot, so would be no surprise to see people transitioning into this finish. Last up for today, folks, is called Rock and a Hard Place. Now for this particular Brutality, you want to make sure you finish your opponent with the Fire and Brimstone combo and hold forward while that animation is happening. Let's go for it. Now for the combo, very straightforward. It's either going to be Y, then X, then A, or triangle, then square, then X. And it should look just like that, folks. Time to close off yet another Brutality, folks. Remember, just finish your opponent with that Fire and Brimstone combo while holding forward. Let's go for it.
All life ends.
What can I say? And I love the way it shatters on the way down. This one reminds me very much of, Tremor, something Tremor might do. Especially because if I do remember, he even did have brutalities in MK X, in which he would replace the head with a number of different resources depending on, I think, the variation you were playing. So that's going to wrap up our Cetrion tutorial for today, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed. It's been nice to be able to go back to her and kind of complete yet another character. As far as I know, the game is not going to be getting updated any further after this, so 25 out of 25 seems like a pretty well-rounded number, if you ask me. I'm not opposed to more content, but from the sounds of it, they're going to be working on potentially a new Mortal Kombat game, which I'm obviously all for. As a whole, I really like Cetrion. I think she's a very cool character, and I enjoy how her philosophy is essentially balance. It's always been a mindset I've shared in that you need a little good, you need a little evil to kind of stave each other off and keep things neutral and balanced, of course. Plus, if you ask me, I think she has some of the best variability in her customization. You can make her, as you can see here, like she just blew out of the ocean, or maybe fell out of a volcano, or is gliding through the sky like the wind. I just really like how her colors are so neon and deep or fluorescent, and her head pieces, her back pieces, they're all very, very unique and different. Kind of things you wouldn't really see on other characters unlike her. Once again, a very big shout out to ProtoPlay for sponsoring yet another video. I really do appreciate it. If you guys want to help support me and my channel, plus ProtoPlay themselves, feel free to hop on down below to the description where you can find a link to my ProtoPlay channel. Just by checking out a couple of my videos over there, same Mortal Kombat themed ones that you will see here, you'll be doing me a great service, helping that company out, and really it costs nothing but just a little bit of your time, so thank you so much if you decide to help support me. As usual, folks, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to reflect that down below in the form of a like or a comment, and if you want to see more content like this in the future, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications to find out exactly when more stuff like this goes live. Suppose that'll wrap it up though, folks. Thank you for your patience, and apologies for no video last week. As some of you probably read, I was off in the Northeast on a little bit of a slight vacation on my way to a wedding, but it was just a nice little way to get out of the city, be out in the boonies, kind of just relax around nature. Great getaway, if you ask me. Gave me some time to kind of just relax and reflect on life, but again, thank you so much for your patience. I know you guys are looking forward to these videos. Many of you are. I appreciate all of you who have been taking part in the polls, commenting, liking, and just interacting with me in general. It means a lot, and it's folk like you who keep me coming back to work on the next video. Again, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully, I will catch you on the next upload. And until then, folks, stay safe, and as always, stay happy. Adios.